Viewer and subscriber FLT528 asks why I don't use an alcohol stove fuel with my little alcohol stove using denatured alcohol instead of complicated and much more arguably dangerous white gas like this, or even isobutane cartridges like this, with this tiny, tiny little stove in the winter. And FLT talks about the 1.5 ounces of alcohol at minus 15 degrees C takes just a little bit, just a tablespoon, and I can melt and heat up a little bit of snow to get going. Well, FLT 528, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. So here's the big challenge. I've got this bottle here versus this little cup of fuel. Now, I've used denatured alcohol in winter camping, and I have had trouble with it camping at minus 30, minus 40 degrees. This is very difficult to light. Even with a match, without enough fumes, it does not light out of a Pepsi can, beer can sort of stove. You have to put the fuel in your jacket, and not just for a few minutes, but warm it up a lot. I've literally went camping and wasn't able to eat my dehydrated food because I simply couldn't get this to light using sparks, matches, lighter. It just was super hard. And once I realized that I couldn't get this lit, I could not really safely pour it back into my container. That's the problem, is this is a very committed setup. Now, compare that to my white gas stove that requires fuel, bottle pumping, and everything else. Well, I can literally run this 325 milliliters for an hour and a half, pretty much an hour and a half, melting 5 liters or more of snow on my MSR XGK. I've literally done this in Greenland, Antarctica, Denali, everywhere. This thing totally works. But my alcohol stove, if I get about 3.5 minutes of burn time out of it, that's usually when you fill it up to about halfway or thereabouts, that's usually good for boiling about a liter of water to get, maybe, 300 milliliters of water, not a liter of water. So a third of a liter, and I can make dehydrated food with this, but there is no way I'm going to be able to use this little stove with denatured alcohol to melt up to 5 liters of water. It just isn't going to happen. So that is the huge downside. So even though the white gas stove is complicated, there's a big fireball potential, there's pressurized fuel, there's some issues there, I can shut this off and turn it off. Once I light my alcohol stove, I can't turn it off. The only way I can do it is to tip it over. I mean, I guess I could put a steel can on it and stop it. But the danger too is alcohol flames are very difficult to see in daylight, if not impossible. This stove, you know it's going. The isobutane, like on Denali and other places, very few people use canister stoves because it's very difficult to tell how much fuel you have left. The steel can carries a lot of weight and it's not reusable, so you end up with a lot of junk. Versus when I'm using these bottles, I just carry one steel bottle, maybe another one as backup, and then I carry all my fuel in plastic bottles. I don't carry the steel can because if this falls over and crinks, I'm toast. And then same thing with denatured alcohol, it's stable. I carry it in a small little 300 milliliter little bottle, and it's great for summer camping. I've used this for 4-night camping, and it is incredible. But the specific reason why this does not work well in the winter is because I can't burn this for an hour and a half. I just can't. Plus, it is not as efficient as my white gas stove. And definitely the white gas stove is better than this little guy because this is so tall and risky. If this gets knocked over, I've got hot water, flames, fuel everywhere. You can buy the little base to extend it out, but you're simply not going to be able to get enough isobutane canisters in winter camping on a long expedition easily, especially international camping. Denatured alcohol, maybe. Your white gas internationally, yeah, you can get it. Maybe you need heptane, maybe a RINs benzene or benzene, but you can burn almost anything in an XGK stove. As another viewer suggested, you can burn denatured alcohol, gasoline, not propane, naphtha, diesel, kerosene. With a jet change, you can literally burn almost any fuel that is pressurizable, if you excuse the phrase, in a white gas stove. And that's why we use white gas stoves in winter camping. We do talk about this in our book, Adventure Expedition 1, and I also talk about it in my book, The Amateur's Guide to Winter Camping, Motivated Amateur's Guide to Winter Camping. Thank you very much. Please ask more questions in the comments below. I really love the questions. It helps give me ideas for videos that I never would have thought about, and I thank you very much.